Hello, PhotoPillar, Rafael Dabar here. Welcome to another masterclass. Today I'm with the great Alessandro Cantarelli. Alessandro, welcome to the
Hello.
club. And today we're going to learn how to shoot or how to create extreme panoramic landscape images. Alex, thanks so much for joining us, and can't
Thank
wait
you too.
can't wait to learn from you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. It's crazy to be here with PhotoPills. Is my my then dream like a lot of time ago, and I was looking at the application, and then I've studied, I've planned a lot of my pictures with your application, and then
Awesome.
to be here with talking with you is crazy. I'm so happy. And hello everyone. And yes, this is time to talk about the extreme panoramas.
Yeah. But first,
Um,
Alex, tell us, who are you? So people that don't
yeah,
know you learn what you do as a photographer and etc.
of course. I'm based in Italy, in Rome, and yeah, Rome is a extremely beautiful place, but it's
Okay.
not ideal for landscape photography. But anyways, I'm passionate for landscape photography since 08 maybe, yes,
Mhm. Oh,
1208 and 2008. And yes, I was in this trip again with the landscape photography since like I'm asking to my father to bring my first camera. I was
okay.
asking with him, and yeah, I'm just obsessed to have a new camera, just to show the camera to my friends. This was the beginning. So and then I just bought the first camera, and I've started to bring some shots like uh, sweetie dogs or
Yeah.
friends or headlights, whatever. And then yeah, I started to study landscape photography because I just joined in some groups in
Mhm.
Facebook, and there I was start to be obsessed because I saw a lot of beautiful pictures, a lot of super moody shots, and I just start to think, oh my god, what can I do something like this? How can I do something like this?
Mhm.
And yeah, I've started to study a little bit the landscape photography. From there, with some really good photographers, I've started to learn some techniques with some tutorials, and
Mhm.
then I studied, and uh, I studied since that I understood that the only way to do something good is to do something different. And
Okay.
yeah, I've studied a lot of techniques like starry images, like nightscapes, or moodyscapes, or cityscapes. But I found my way in panoramics. I don't know why. It was just what I like most, and
Mhm.
here we are today. We bring a lot of people in some photo tours.
Mhm.
We have an Italian company that organizes photo tour for Italian people, and
Mhm.
I organize myself photo tours for foreign people.
Mhm.
And yeah, we organize in photo tours mainly in mountains or cliffs, or places that are ideal for panoramics and landscape photography in
Very nice.
general. And yeah, we love to explore for first, and then bring people with us, and then communicate our passion, and then inspire a lot of people.
Yeah,
That's it.
man. Can't wait to get inspired and above all learn how you take this, how you create your own style of these amazing extreme panoramics.
Thank
So
you.
anytime you want, we can jump onto the presentation. And if you guys watching this video live, watching us live, you can post your questions on the chat because we have, as always, the great Sandra Yaure with us, and she will be helping us collecting your questions so Alex can answer them. So, Alex, are you ready? I am ready.
Let's go.
Let's go for
Let's
it.
go. All right. So the title is really simple: Extreme Panoramic Landscapes. It means extreme just because they are extremely wide panoramas. So I love to capture from 180 two 360 degrees panorama. So I love these super wide angles. I have to advise you, they are super complicated and they have to be created in ideal places. There are not places like plazas, like flat places. You need a lot of special places, but we will talk about it later on. And yes, this is a presentation that want just explain you to have how to have something unique in your portfolio. It's not specifically for extreme panoramic. Panoramics is my way. I will show you how to do it. But the question is how to have something unique in your portfolio. This is the central question. So you will see the of course the mouse. So I will point something, and let's start to talk about the landscape photography definition, and then how to make the difference. You need a new idea. That's the bad. The bad news. And how about the goals? So curiosity and explore. The challenge, which is the hardest part of make something different, and some stories and examples. We'll talk about my photos. I will show you some examples, and we will talk with Rafa how to create an image like this, how is planned, everything, and some conclusions. So let's go talking about the landscape photography. This is a famous phrase that explain it in everything, in every way. An art that brings together man and nature. This is the first thing. We want to stay in the nature. We want to enjoy the nature. We want to live the nature for first. I mean, I hope every one of you want this because this is the main thing. And
yeah, you mean that the photo is just a result, but the true thing is be out there enjoying and exploring and being in contact with nature.
Of course, and this is why we are. I mean, I am not scared about the AI. AI now is growing up super fast, and you can see a lot of really good images of landscapes. But I every time say the same thing. I say, guys, the only important thing is the experience. The rest, it doesn't matter. If you go into the experience, you live the nature. The photo is just a consequence, right?
Yeah.
So an overview to landscape photography is originated from the desire to capture the natural beauty of the environment. Of course, the early pioneers sought to preserve the awesome vistas and unique features of landscape using various photographic techniques to communicate the majesty and serenity of natural world. Exactly what we're talking about. Right, so enjoy the nature, live the nature, enjoy the hardest part of the nature, like walking, like hiking, with a lot of weight, with a lot of complications, like the weather changing, etc. is the main thing. So live the nature and then capture in a photograph. The contemporary fine art landscape photographers do something unique, right? So, which is the different from a photographer and a tourist. The tourist just point and shot with the iPhone, with the phone, with everything, but not with a professional camera, not with a professional approach, not with the a professional techniques like unique perspectives or meticulous composition or light and atmosphere. So the difference between a photographer and a tourist is that the photographer just go deep into the nature and then capture the essence of the nature, like human nature relationship, inserting like human, the person, or the emotional resonance. If you go in to the galleries like for example Catherine Simard, like emotional resonance, you can see the emotional resonance in every single image from her. And yes, this is the difference from a tourist and a photographer. And which are the most diffused techniques? I mean, I don't want to say they are mainstream or easy to do. They are just the most diffused techniques, like sunset and sunrise, or night photography, or minimal landscapes, for example. Also panoramic, but the normal panoramics, like, for example, 180 degrees. Sunset and sunrise is the most popular, maybe, with this foreground that pop-ups a lot, in the lowest part of the image, in the bottom, and then the midground, and then the background with a lot of clouds and colors, and maybe the colors of the sun setting or rising. This is the photo. This photo is by Arpandas, that is a really good artist. And let's say, of course, the night photography in the last years is has exploded amongst enthusiasts. Like, this is from Lorenzo Ranieri Tenti, that is my friend and business partner, but you can have a lot of great photographers like Ellen Wallace or Benjamin Baccarat, and you can have a lot of really good images in terms of Milky Ways, in terms of night panorama, night photographers. And of course, the minimal landscapes. Today is full of, like intimate photographers. They call it like this today. They mainly are the minimal photographers. Like, of course, Alex Noriega is one of the pioneers of this genre. And less elements, just a play, a game with light and elements, or colors and elements, but with a few elements and nothing more than scenic, like, our pictures, like less wow effect, but with a super impact in terms of minimalism. And now arrives the challenge: how to make the difference in photo in a circus like this. It's full of great photographers. If you open your application, your Instagram, you can see a lot of new photographers every single day, or not? You can see a lot of really good photographers every day. I open Instagram and I discover a new photographer, and I say, wow, what works? It's crazy every day. And so you need an idea, or you need to push your photography in one way, like crazy, and go in straight in this direction, and have something unique in your portfolio. I have tried everything. Trust me, everything, like, starry nights, cityscapes, minimalism, or deep skies. But later on, I will talk about this. It was one person that told me, okay, your single shot are something that we have seen a lot of times, nothing special. Okay, classical photos, nothing unique. Keep doing the panoramas, because in your panoramas there is something special, like lines, like, like your interpretation of the environmental. And so this was my idea. It was nothing special, but it was a little bit different from, normal panoramas. Normal panoramas are around 180 degrees, or at least was around 180 degrees a few years ago, like 10 years ago. Right now, 360 degrees are so diffused, and I have decided to concentrate my photography only in this direction. I was with my Instagram, and I was with a lot of single shot. And when I took this decision to start to do only panoramas, I was in trouble, because I was deleting all my images, and I was so sad. It's so sad, that moment. But anyways, I decided to go straight in this direction, because in one tour I was with two of my masters, and they told me, keep doing panoramas with these lines, with these arches in the bottom. You can have really unique images. All right, let's do it. And then keep doing what you love is the meaning of this explanation. The first thing, and do what you love the most. So in my growth, I simply experimented every single genre of landscape photography, before every single genre of photography in general. and then I was literally, I felt in love with landscape photography, and then with panoramic photography. When I discovered panoramic photography, it was like, you know, like a mad challenge. Like, I have to do a panorama also here, and here as well, and here again, and here again, and here as well. So sometimes it works, and sometimes not, because sometimes there are, there are some landscapes that are not ideal for panoramas, and that's the challenge. So I've started to plan my trips, my tours, my adventures, only looking for panoramas. And then here we are. So what was the goal? Doing what I liked before, because I just fell in love with this genre, and yeah, it was natural, you know. it it it, it was a consequence. I fell in love with this, and then I just want to, capture everything like in this way. And especially since it was not uncommon, when I started to concentrate my photographs in panoramas, I'm looking around me, and only Nicholas Rommel did something like this. A lot of extreme panoramas, but not only. He also did a lot of single shots, amazing single shots, and then I started to think, all right, I want to concentrate only on this. And do only that is the number two. Do only that is nothing more important than believing in an idea and having perseverance to pursuing it. Of course, this is the most complicated part, because if idea doesn't work, you concentrate in something that doesn't work, of course. But you can see easily, because you can, if you talk with your friends, talk with some photographers, and then they appreciated you, and then they tells you, oh, you're beginning the master of this kind of photography, like Coca-Cola. If I say, right, which is the best drink for young people today is Coca-Cola, or whatever. And just focus only with in one thing, and create a brand identity. This is super useful is if you want to approach this kind of photography in terms of professional photography, like teach someone, or doing some exhibition or whatever. Expand its name with events, exhibition, competition, or partnership, or this stream, for example. And then encourage enthusiasts to take such peculiar photographs. So exactly the thing that we are doing today, like panoramas or other kind of art. So it depends of people what likes most, right? And so I started to challenge myself in the beginning to have an exclusive view of the mainstream places. So I've started to study how to make the difference. During the first photo tours, I've tried to explain panoramas to the customers, and then during the explanations, I've seen a lot of different perspectives in the most photographed places, like Vestravon. As you can see here, we was in Iceland, and this is one of the all right, this is one of the most photographed places in Iceland, or in the world. And how to make the difference in places like this is super hard, because this is photographed by the best photographers in the world. And so it's really, really complicated to have something unique in here. And so I've started to try to have a different perspective. And after a lot of tries, like 3 or 4 years, I found this spectacular situation with double arch, with double rainbow on the left, and with the sun that was rising on the right. And so this was a unique vista, a unique perspective of the Westerhorn. So it's a little bit, underrated. The Westerhorn, the mountain, is a little bit tiny, small, because of the panorama. So I think there are a lot of really good photographers instead of this. Really good images like that gives at the background the most importance, the most, is a giant, is really big, and so here is tiny, but anyways it's special at least. And then push your limits. For me, for example, I've started to study climbing techniques, like go to places that are uncommon. And if you stay in places that are uncommon, you can have a really unique images, of course. This is from Swiss Alps, which is the name? Arena is one of the famous glaciers. Alesh, all right. The Alesh Arena, and is one of the famous place here, but there is a lot of people that have captured it in for example, sunset or sunrise, but I have not seen a lot of images in night sky here with the night light. And I fall in love with the moon because of the panoramas. With the panoramas, you can have a lot of interesting shapes and shadows and lights. More with the moon instead the Milky Ways, because with the Milky Ways you can have a flat foreground, of course, but because there is no light. And so push your limits, go in places that other people is not willing to go, right? And then the curiosity always remains a successful photographer's best friend. I think this is the main thing: curiosity and experimenting every time, a new perspective, a new vision. Also in the desert, you can see a lot of pictures of super photographers, of great artists. There are like dunes, like shapes and difference of lights and contrast, etc. But it's really hard to have a really good panorama in the desert, because the dunes are simple, are really regular like this, and so it's a little bit complicated. And I was challenging, and I was super curious to have a panorama in this kind of environment, and this is the result. And so
very nice, very nice.
Oh, thank you.
We have a few questions here. If you don't mind answering them?
Of course. Because I don't have the chat. I have only a private chat. And the comments here.
I have the questions. No worries. So we have George Diosen asking how you can shoot yourself in the picture when capturing panoramas like that.
All right. Seems complicated, but it's really easy. You can see the tiny person just because of the super wide lenses and super wide angles. Like is a panoramic image. This is a 360, and in a 360 you can see the person that is really tiny. But for real, I was around 10 meters or 15, no more. In the distance between me and the camera, so I was not far at all. But you can use a simply remote command. I use the Pixel one, that is a remote command that is born for command the flashes. So you can put your receiver on top of the camera, and then with Wi-Fi, it works around 30 meters. So you have no problem at all. You just have to keep your batteries with you. Sometimes I forget the batteries, and I shoot a time lapse, like click, 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 and I go on top of the place and posing, do a lot of poses, and then come back to the camera. and it was super funny to look at the shots, because if you look at the shots in the camera going fast, you can have a time lapse, you going crazy. Sometimes I use but remote is the best solution, of course.
Awesome, thank you. 2 questions more, and then we can go into the examples and learn how you make them real. A question from Guy Dryas. He's asking, Max Rive is doing similar style images. Did you get inspiration because of his work? I know that you know Max.
Yeah, yeah. Max is for me is was the biggest inspiration ever. I was with him in Senia Island. Later on, I will show you a shot with him, and yeah, it was super inspiring in terms of adventure, in terms of perseverating, doing something crazy that other people is not willing to do, and yeah, was absolutely an inspiration. And I've studied his techniques. I've studied his compositions, or photo editing. Later on, I would started to have something more personal, like light management, and yeah, something different instead the max techniques. But anyways, yes, the answer is absolutely yes.
Awesome,
Yeah,
awesome, awesome. And the last question from Simon Leng.
yeah.
What would you say the main difference between a panorama and an ultra wide cropped 21:9 with high megapixel?
Ma- all right. My panoramas are 2-on-1. Every one of my panoramas are 2-on-1. Just because I think that 2-on-1 format is the most is ideal for panoramas, because you can have a long side, but you have a short side that is not too short. For example, if you use 3-on-1, you can have a super flat image, a super large image that is not appreciable. I think maybe 2-on-1 is the ideal format. In terms of megapixel, also it depends of your camera. Actually, I'm using a 12 megapixel camera, and I bring 4 shots to have 4 frames to have a 360 degrees panorama, because I have a super wide lens I'm using right now also for the for the live stream. Is Sony A7S, the third generation, so A7S3. And I use the 12 millimeters or the 8 millimeters, or from Samyang, or the 15 millimeter fisheye, or from Canon. F4 or f2.8, it depends of the night sky or daylight. But yeah, or only fisheyes, and in vertical mode, of course. And with 12 megapixel, I have just 12 for 4 shots. So maybe around 6,000 the long side, and yeah, something like this, 600. Yes, 6,000 long side, no more. And it depends of your camera, of course. If you use a 45 megapixel camera, you will have a little bit, you will be in trouble with your computer. You will need a SpaceX computer to to stitch everything together, especially if you do something like HDRs, etc. I will show you later on.
Also shooting like a panorama is not the same image than shooting in a wide angle, super wide angle lens, and then cropping it.
Of course.
Distortions are different. Everything is different, right?
We all together know an international contest that award people that just take a single shot and then crop it in 2.1. It's just a different definition of panorama. I don't like it a lot, but anyways, yes, that's the reality. No problem at all. I think it's a little bit complicated to have a really a real panorama, because you rotate yourself, you rotate the camera all over around you, and so the most hardest part is to have everything balanced, because sometimes if you go on top of the mountain and look at the view, you can have a really good view, but behind you can be some structure, some hotel, I don't know, whatever, or another element, or a tree, everything that unbalance your photo. So it's hard to have everything balanced. This is the hardest part, maybe. And in the desert was really easy, because of course everything is at the same level, so no problem at all to have all balanced. Just the mountain here, but anyway, the photo is balanced. This is the most important part and the hardest part of the panoramas, to have all or everything balanced. And with single shot, you can have just a view in front of you, and then you cannot care about what is behind you.
Awesome. And the last question that is related to what you're going to explain now, from Chitan Gohel. Will you show or describe the technical process of taking the panoramas, taking the photos, and stitching them together? I don't know if you have time to do an example of stitching. I don't think so. But going over the planning and technical parts, I'm sure you
yeah. We can talk about the overlapping. Also, the second question from Kenneth is about the overlapping. So we can understand how to do it. Of course, without some physical example, but we can talk about it. We can talk about it in another photo. Oops, where I go? All right. We can see the same photo. All right, perfect. So let's start about it with it. This is my best image ever, I think, because it was a little bit complicated, but it was super lucky, because I was on top of the mountain, and I was shooting the Trecime of Lavaredo with the moonlight. We slept on top of this mountain, and the most difficult part was, of course, shooting the moonlight, and then here was a little bit darker, and so here we have a bright part, and here we have a darker part, so it's a little bit complicated. If you imagine this photo like around you can have the right side stitching the left side, so it's just a flattered image, but you can understand that this is the center image. Was this part was my view looking at, and then I was with the moon on the left, and I was with the broken speck on the right. So this and this, the sides was was behind me, right? It's a little bit complicated to explain, but yeah, maybe they can understand like this. And how to shoot something like this? Every time I start with the brightest part of the image, because I want to read the exposure in the brightest part of the image to preserve the highlights. So the first thing is to start composing the image with the starting from the highlights. For first, you can try, when you arrive in location, you can start to have a lot of tries with the phone. Right now, every phone can have a panorama, so you can try with your phone, just pointing at around you, just take some panoramas and try to understand which is the best point of view. When you it was a little bit complicated a few years ago, because the phone cannot do something like this, and was a little bit complicated to imagine the panoramas. Now the iPhone or other phones has a super wide angle panoramas, so it's like 13 millimeters, so it's ideal to simulate our panoramas. And so go on location, try to have a lot of point of view, try to have a lot of panoramas, save in your favorites 2 or 3 spots, and then wait for conditions. In this situation, we waited a lot for a good condition, because when we was on top of the mountain was completely foggy. We just say like we cannot see anything. Why we are here? We set the tent and then go to sleep, and then looking outside every half an hour or every hour, and then when the window opened, we run away super fast and try to replicate the panorama that I have shooted in the beginning, in the daylight. So let's start from this part of the image with the first shot, vertical shot every time. I shoot every time in vertical mode, because if you shoot in vertical mode, you can use the widest part of the format to have a lot of sky and a lot of foreground. If you shoot in the horizontal mode, you can have an image that will be super thin and super long, right? And so the correct way is to go in vertical mode. You can shoot in vertical mode, and starting from brightest part, in this case was the moon. And so against the moon, I shoot around 3 or 4 exposures. Normal exposure like 0, the automatic exposure rating to 0 to have the midtones, and then 3 or 4 shots to preserve the highlights. So underexpose like 2 stops or 3 stops to have everything, every highlight, every white that was readable, and then rotate your camera. I was in the first shot here, in the second shot here, so this part of the image, third and fourth, and etc. This was 6 shots because in this period I was with 12 millimeters, and I was done with 6 shot to have a 360 degrees panorama. The overlap, it depends a lot of the, which software you use it to stitch the images. Like I use PhotoPills. I'm obsessed.
PhotoPills for planning.
For planning, it's before.
Yeah.
I use PT GUI to stitch my images because it's so good, and I have to, I cannot add some points. I have not overlap a lot. Now I overlap around 20% of each image from previous, and 20% is less than what you need on Photoshop. If you use Photoshop, you have to overlap at least 30 or 40%. So it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
For 30%, you have a lot of pictures. If you want to have this photo stitched by Photoshop, you have to take at least 12 frames to stitch everything together. So it's a little bit complicated to manage in terms of highlights, multi exposures. You have a lot of files, so it's a little bit complicated. I use 12 millimeters, or in general fish eyes. And one of the guys has talked about the equirectangular. Yes, I use the full frame fisheye equirectangular right now. And this was 6 frames. So with 6 frames, with 20%, around 20% of overlapping, I've done this panorama, right?
Yeah.
So
and no focus stacking, right?
No, this is this is a good argument, Rafa, because I never go with focus stackings, because I never go under my point of view with tripod. Every time I use my tripod full extended.
Okay.
So this is a little bit weird, because we are every time we see something like this, we imagine that it was really near to the foreground, but it's just an illusion, because if you use something like 100 degrees field of view lenses like this, that is 12 millimeters by Samyang, the f2.8, you can have the part of the sky on top of you and the part of the foreground in the bottom, and you every time have in the frames, you every time have the legs of tripod. So you are super near to the foreground, but without going on top of it, or near to it. And so it's much simple to have everything in focus, also with the large aperture like f2.8 or f4. You don't have problem of.
Where do you focus on the tent, or?
I focus every time in the horizon.
Okay.
Yeah, every time I will look, every time the most contrasted part of the horizon. For example, in this image, if I will focus this image, I will focus in here with autofocus, but the Samyang is manual, so I just go with the infinite focus, and that's it. Actually, my Samyang is every time blocked on infinite focus, and I just have to turn it in during something like this, during the stream, during the live. And it happens sometimes that I go in location and I take everything unfocused, because I'm totally, I just know, okay, it's infinite, no problem, and it's changed before, but anyways.
And for the base exposure, where do you expose?
Every time I read the exposure in a whole,
The whole
in the whole, on the whole
thing.
image, in the whole scene,
Okay.
because I've understood that if I start from the brightest part, like the moon or the sun, I have every time the shadow, the highlights readable just with 2 shots more or 2 shots less or more. It depends. During the night, I do it manually, so I go just underexposed, just a little bit, like 2 or 3 stops. And during the day, I just do auto bracket. I will show you later on. And
Okay, perfect,
yeah.
perfect. So basically,
In daylight,
you underexpose as many times as necessary, also to get all the light gradients and get the moon not like overexposed.
Yeah, and of course, I prefer to have one more exposure to be sure to preserve the highlights. It's not a question of shadows. Shadows sometimes are a little bit darker, but you can recover the shadows. The modern cameras are amazing in terms of the dynamic range, and so you have the shadows more readable than the highlights. If you lose the highlights, the photo is gone. So I suggest to read the exposure in matrix mode, so the overall the whole the whole scene, and then try to have underexposures, and then go every time to the histogram to see if everything is everything is not clipped or compromised.
Perfect.
And this was super lucky because you can see the moon here. Here Jupiter, here the headlights of the climbers that were going on top of the Cima Grande in the center, and the Big Dipper on the cross. And here was a broken spectre, and this was a little bit it's a little bit complicated to imagine that the moon reflect the broken spectre, because I was in here and the broken spectre was behind me on my left, on my right. So it's a little bit complicated to.
So cool.
Exactly. So cool. Exactly. It's an interpretation.
Yeah.
That was funny. So I can show you other images.
How long did it take you to take that shot?
In terms of time during the shooting?
Yeah.
It depends. I always a lot of minutes, because I always go crazy with the situation, and I take a lot of panoramas to have the best one, and if I see the moon that go behind the clouds, I just wait, or I just shoot without the moon. I try a lot of panoramas. I separate my panoramas with a hand during the daylight. So for example, in this case, I was 6 frames for 3 exposures each, so 18 photos. And when I shoot 18 photos and I'm sure that I have a panorama, I photograph my end, and so I just be sure that I can separate the series, to choose the series better in bridge or whatever. So during the night, I will point my phone on the camera to have a lot of light, and have a basically white frame to separate each series, right? This is a different photo, and we are talking before about Max 3. I was with him here, and this is my first tour on Senja Island in Norway, and was an absolutely amazing adventure. I will come there again, and The next year I will organize a lot of tours here because it's just crazy. And Segla, this mountain, you can see a lot of time this mountain captured from these rocks or from other places around here. And this is one of the most famous mountain captured. And how to make the difference, of course, in a famous place, doing something different. Like pointing your attention to other things, or including something special, but facing it in another way. And so I was in front of a sunset. This was a sunset, and was the same thing. For first I have looked at the brightest part of the scene. So I pointed my camera straight against the sun, and I have read the exposure with matrix mode. I was with a Canon here, a 5D, but 12 millimeters as well. And here was really easy to manage the light, because it's just a bracketing, an auto bracketing from 0 to +2 and -2. So I every time doing something like this, and also talking with Daniel Cordan, he says, yes, no problem with 0, +2, -2, you are okay with the lights and shadows. So every time now it's really easy. I just do something like this when I go in location, nothing more. I just look at the brightest part, pointing the camera, read the exposure in matrix mode, focus on the horizon or something like here, or infinite with manual lenses, and then shoot 0, +2, -2.
And do you shoot manual mode? Or,
manual mode. Manual mode. Manual mode, and I shoot every time. This is weird, because I suggest every time to my partners, my business partners, my teachers, or people that that work with me, to don't suggest to people to use every time the same numbers, because the scenes are different each other, and you can have different kind of lights or different kind of elements. But in panoramic photography, actually, I do every time the same thing. When I'm against the sun, I go straight in f16 or 13 with my aperture, and ISO 100 every single time, Rafa. Trust me, every single time. During the daylight, these are my sets, nothing more.
Okay.
Are my settings. And so I don't change nothing rotating. This is the most important part of shooting panoramas. Don't change your settings during the rotation. So if you bring the first shot, like for example in here, you can have the first shot, like for example, aperture f13, 100 ISO, and the shutter speed in consequence of the light. It depends. Sometimes it's 1.15, sometimes it's 1/200. It depends seconds. But anyways, when you have the settings, the correct settings, just rotate the camera and replicate the shot. Don't change the settings, because when you have a stitching, you will have the same dynamic range and the same noise also. Sometimes when I was in the beginning with panoramas, during the night I was changing the ISO, and then I was in trouble with the noise, because I have a lot of noise, for example, in this part of the image, and this part was perfect. And so, as you can see, it's a little bit complicated. So go straight with the same settings every time. So 0, +2, -2, and then rotate the camera. It's different. Is not a problem. The direction of the rotation, especially in daylight panoramas, because you can go straight on the right or straight on the left. It doesn't matter, especially if you shoot 360 degrees. Because when you shoot 360 degrees, the advantage is that you can stitch the image, and then you can choose the center of the image. You can rotate the image in the software in PTGUI. You can pitch the image and move it infinite. Like, you can rotate the image because it is, is linked, right? And so it's really easy to choose the center. If you are wrong with the center, every time I try to see if the center is better to move, for example, here, the sun, to move the sun here and have, for example, the Segla mountain around the center, but the photo was unbalanced. Here, there is a balance with these two curves, like here and here, and you have a lot of balance in terms of elements. Like here was a little bit this mountain and the Segla mountain, and the sun is not perfectly in the center because it's balanced with the person that is not perfect in the center. So if you go to the center, you have an axle like this, a line like this that is between me and the sun. I include myself for mainly two reasons. The first reason is the scale of the sense of scale of the place. This is a common technique that most of photographers do in landscape photography. And the second is ego. I like to have myself in my pictures, and in this picture I was super inspired by I don't know if you know there is an artist that was a painter, and he's painted himself looking at the valley with the sun, at the sea with a lot of waves, and was super interesting to have something like this. The man is looking at the ocean.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that's it.
From the technique part of view, I suppose you shoot in balance, white balance in manual mode, right?
Yeah,
not automatic.
Yeah. Automatic mode and automatic mode.
And you're not scared to shoot that the white balance changes when you rotate?
Exactly. This is a part of the challenge, the white balance. And I use the automatic mode simply because when I put the photos on camera raw, I synchronize every photo together, and I move a little bit the tint and white balance, just 1 point, just to synchronize the photos. So sometimes happens that I have a blue photo and red photo, but when I stitch together, that white balance actually is just a number, and so it's no problem at all to have it in camera raw. But if you do manually, maybe it's better because you have you preserve you can see also in the preview of the camera that is a JPEG actually. You can see a correct white balance in every single shot, of course.
I love the light on the mountain that is supposed to be at your back, but here we see it at your left. So at first it looks kind of weird because you see the mountain lit, but you know that mountain is not in front of you; it's behind you.
Yeah, you have centered one of the most polemics of my images when I post on social medias. Is common that some photographers point the finger on me and say, you're a liar. Right. How is possible? Yeah, how is possible to have a light here? Man, it's just a 360. This was behind me. Every time I have to explain this, but it's normal because the human is not, is weird.
Light masters.
Of course. And that is the image that we are talking before. When I was here with Max and Daniel, they told me your single images are something that we have seen a lot of times. Nothing special, nothing unique, just waste them. And this is something different. This is something new, something special. Let's keep doing this. And now, of course, is a mainstream. 360 degrees are a lot of photographers that are really good in 360 degrees, like Pablo Luis Garcia, for example, is one of them. Yeah, of course. And also the panoramas from Max or from Daniel are outstanding. And it's just a question of how you can focus just on one genre.
Nice.
Later on I will I have I was focused on tones, on colors, and I was challenged myself to find a contrast between the right part or the left part, in terms of colors, in terms of tint, in terms of temperature. Here you can have a blue, and here you can have a yellow, and it's not easy to understand from where to shoot, because every time you have a foreground that is different that you can imagine. And so from top of here was good as well, but from here was epic, because the sun reflecting again the broken spectrum here, that is super tiny. You cannot see it, but anyways, there it is. And that's it. And you can have a lot of opportunities. You can try a lot of experimenting with 360 degrees, because sometimes it works and sometimes not. You have no idea of how many panoramas I have wasted, because yeah, of course, not every time the panorama it works. Or now, if you do a lot of times, you can understand, you can start to understand how are the characters of the landscape movement that you can bring home successfully. But in the beginning, you can go a little bit confused with a lot of elements, and phones right now are good allies. Nice. Because you can use it for good images. This was exactly the same technique that I showed you before. So straight against the sun, read the exposure in matrix mode, white balance auto, focusing on person. That was my girlfriend, but anyways, it's the same on the horizon, because with the ultra wide lens, you have no problem with the field of depth.
The depth of field, yeah.
Depth of field, yeah, of course. And so you don't have problem, focusing the foreground or person or what behind the person, etc. And so same thing, focus on infinite, just 3 shots, like 1, like 0, +2, -2, and then rotate the camera without changing nothing, and that's it. So nothing special more than before.
Alex, in terms of gear, do you use any special gear to shoot with, or like another rail or special head?
Yes, I was using the nodal slide, the classical nodal slide with the L form, like this, L shape. That is the classic nodal slide. You can find it on Amazon today. Before was a little bit complicated, because was super specific instrument for some photographers. It was born for virtual tour in the interiors of hotels or apartments, and was a little bit complicated to find it on the marketplaces. But now on Amazon you can find it for just €100 or something like this, and it's super useful. The difference between the nodal slide and nodal plate is this: with the nodal plate you can go, for example, if you have your, I will show you like this. If you have your center like this, and this is your camera, for example, you have to go with the camera behind the shooting place, because the lens have to be in the nodal point, like this, for example. So you rotate like this and not like this. If you rotate like this, the lens go straight here, and you can have a lot of problems in terms of stitching. If you stay like here and you rotate, so this is our just improvisation. But if you stay behind, you can rotate your camera like this, and you can have 0 problems in terms of stitch. With the nodal slide, you can go like this, but you can't go. You can't point on top or on the bottom. You just can't. You just can shoot in horizontal balance or is horizon balance. If you go with the nodal slide, that is the L shape, you can take your camera on the nodal slide, attach your camera on the nodal slide, and then rotate it on top or on the bottom, and you can have a lot of rows of panorama. I suggest to have a super wide angle to have less rows of panorama. If you use a super wide angle, you can go around, for example, 12 millimeter or 10 millimeters. You can have 180 in my lens, 180 or 120 or 150 degrees field of view, and you can have one shot to have everything, like upper part and the bottom. If you go with for example, 14 millimeters that you can have 100 degrees field of view, is a bit complicated because you have less field of view in terms of height, and so you can have a tiny portion of the scene. You can lose, for example, Milky Way arch that is super high, and you need a lot of rows. You can have you have to shoot, pointing on top or pointing on bottom. That's it. So I suggest to you, if you want to do into panoramas, to bring to buy a super wide lens, like 12 millimeters, 8 millimeters, 10 millimeters. My favorite lens is overall the 15 millimeters fisheye from Canon. That is insanely sharp, and is a fisheye, of course, is a circular fisheye if you use it at 8 millimeters on a full frame camera. But if you bring a 10 millimeters, you can hide the borders, and you can have a rectangular fisheye that has 180 degrees diagonal. So you can have mainly a 2.1 format, just with one row that is 360 for 180. Really easy.
Nice.
It's really easy. It's not really easy. It's nice, it's nice, but not really easy.
I always say that PhotoPills is easy, and people complain about that. Easy, it's easy.
It's easy. It's easy. It's not really easy at all. But anyways, the guy Dryas says perfectly. I say Alex refers artist Caspar David Frederick. Yeah, of course. And this is another thing to have really good panoramas. The caves. If you go into the caves, you have a lot of chances to have really good panoramas. Why the caves are good for panoramas? Because sometimes you cannot have the whole complete cave in just one single shot. For example, if I shoot with one single shot, I will bring just this part, for example, and I cut off the side parts, and I can't, for example, have the whole shape of the cave. Especially if you have a double layer arch like this, that was the same arch, but if you bring it from the center, you can have a flat-red double arch. And it was super funny to shoot this photo. I was with fever in Iceland, but when you see aurora from the windshield of the car that you're using for sleep, you have to go. And so I was with fever, but I was determined to have a ice cave shot with the aurora. And so after 2 tries, I was lucky with the northern lights. And then here was a little bit complicated, nothing in terms of focusing or nothing in terms of my posing, my figure, but in terms of exposure, because I was with a super darkest part inside and a super brightest part outside. And so the difference of the dynamic range was a little bit complicated to manage. I have done a lot of shots, but anyway, also here, the lens helps a lot. If you use a super wide lens, you can have less frames to stitch the panorama, and so you can have less complications to manage them. So less shoot means less complications overall. And as you can see, here is balanced. Here was super darker, at least black, and was a little bit challenging to have everything readable. But anyways, the most important parts are here outside, and the person and the sense of scale, and the overall image was good. Nothing special, but was good. And from inside of the caves, you can have, for example, One of the most I don't know if I have put it in this gallery. I can show you later on. One of the most images that people contest to me is the image from Kikufel cave. The people says every time, there is no cave there, I know the location, but it's not a cave. It's just it's just a tiny part of the rock that seems
that
like a
covers you.
cave.
Yeah,
Exactly. That covers you, and that covers just the necessary to have your 180 degrees pointing on that, and then bring the highest part, and then it seems a cave.
Yeah, there are many hidden caves people don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Invisible caves.
This is an image that explains perfectly what you're talking about before. So the sun was here, and how is possible to have the light here? Just because the sun was on my left, I shooted for this was the center, and then sun of my left, and then the sun was hitting here, of course, because it's a 360 degrees panorama. Here was a little bit complicated. I suggest to people that are following us that to go on top of the mountain. That is more easy, because if you are surrounded by elements like this, it's really hard to manage in terms of balance. So watch out to the places like this. Here is in Dolomites, is a hidden place that is really, really cool. And you need a lot of practice to manage some situations like this, full of elements, full of shapes, and it's a little bit complicated. I personally don't like panoramas with for example, with for example, if you are in the mountain, but you are not on the top, and you take a 360 degrees panorama, you can have the sides with a walls, a sort of walls, and so I don't like, because I like the size free of everything. Like it's more sense of breath. There is more air, to expand. I don't know why. And also here, as you can see, this is this part of the villa finished here and then started again here. And I leave it because some people say, why do you leave the villa here just with the brush, with the clone stamp? You can remove it, but I don't want, because this is a 360 and it's interesting that the villa continues here. And here again, it's weird, but
it helps understand the photo, I think.
Of course. And also here was complicated, but cliffs are really good for panoramas. I suggest to people to go to cliffs, like mountains and cliffs, and also the desert, caves are really good. Flat places or hills are not good for panoramas. I can suggest to avoid them. And also here the same, straight in front of the sun, 0 + 2 - 2, auto white balance, and focusing on horizon, and then click. And here was APS-C camera, was the Sony A6600. Yes. That was really cool camera, super small but super powerful, with the 8mm lens by Samyang, the f2.8, the manual lens, and was super good. Not super sharp, but super
nice.
Super easy to bring, super lightweight, etc. And let's talk about something different. Here was a big challenge. A great challenge, because panoramas are not ideal for cityscapes, and I was super mega lucky with the conditions. Also Albert Ross, that was in the city, because it was for the exposure, the festival in the last year, and the last edition this year. And we was together in the city, and I was on top of this building. And when I showed the photo to Albert, he says, "Oh my God, how is possible? This is the first time to come come in Dubai, and you bring some photos like this? What the hell?" Yeah, sorry, guys.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I
I
think
could
if you
see,
are,
I
yeah,
could see Albert saying that.
yeah.
What the hell?
What the hell, man? And I say yes, and I say something like, "Yeah, I was super lucky, of course." And I was not sure about the composition. I was not sure about the, balance of elements. A lot of skyscrapers, a lot of buildings, and I was super scared about the final result. But when he say yes, it's Alex White style, I say, all right, it's Alex White
Okay,
style is enough.
it's good.
Is enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of course you can see every time I touch the right, all right. You can see this arch here is a classical of panoramas. It's just a distortion. This, of course, the highway is straight. It's not curved like this, but it's just a question of panorama, the distortion, and so this helps a lot to have an interesting image at all. And so
Cool.
the same process. I was with the A7S3 because it's this year, and same process, but a little bit complicated in terms of scene, something new for me. And here was full of elements, and here was a little bit empty. I still don't like it. It's a bit empty here, but yeah, the clouds makes a difference here. And so yeah, you can imagine this photo with without clouds, and
Yeah.
maybe it's for the
I see
yeah,
what you
yeah.
mean. They like it.
Thanks.
And the sun
And
is on the
so,
right spot.
and of course, Milky Ways.
Yeah, Milky Ways and star trails.
Yeah. Night photos are quite difficult. Right now, I'm switching from Milky Ways. I was focused on Milky Ways for a lot of years, and I was obsessed by night skies. I started from Sardinia. Here we are in Sardinia in this image. Italy offers not a lot of spots, but Sardinia, for example, is one of the best spots ever to have such beautiful images. Beautiful landscape, beautiful cliffs like this. And yeah, here was one of my first. The title of the image is First of All, because it was my first 360 degrees panorama. It was my first 360 degrees panorama astro tracked.
Wow.
It was my first 360 degrees panorama of the Milky Way in this season, and so a lot of things. And and the first maybe is decent because the previous tries was just shit. And this was interesting because I shooted the sky in a different moment, and I shooted the lowest part in another moment, the foreground. For the sky, I was there around 2 a.m. during the night, and the Milky Way arch was perfect because it was April. So I suggest to go in the early season of the Milky Way if you want to shoot panoramas, because the Milky Way is down to the horizon. It's not too much higher. Then if you go, for example, in July, you will risk to have the Milky Way arch too much higher, and you cannot have it in a panorama. So I suggest to you, and you can plan it, of course, with the best application ever to plan this kind of shots. It's useless to say the name, you just know. And of course, if you plan, for example, to have an arch like this in 360 degrees astro tracked, it's better to go, for example, in April or in March, April, or at least May, not more than May, I think. And yes, it was there in April, and the main thing was to have 360 degrees of the sky. So I pointed the sky, and for overlapping, I just bet it. I just overlapped by following the main the brightest stars, like for example Saturn here, Mars here, Jupiter here, Saturn here, the Big Dipper, and so overlapping, looking at the stars and moving the stars in the 30% of the next photo. I don't know if I can explain it, but
yeah, makes sense.
that was the process. And 8 photos to be sure instead of 6. I was with 12 millimeters, 180 degrees field of view. So was really easy to do also in 4 or 6 frames. But I want to be sure in this kind of situation, so I shot with I shoot 8 frames just for the sky with a big overlapping, and for 5 minutes each, so 40 minutes just for the sky. Was a little bit tricky, but anyways, just to be sure to have it perfectly aligned with the horizon, just maintain just 2 fingers of the horizon. I suggest to have something to have a reference to stitch the image together in the software. And 5 minutes each, so 300 seconds, and f4 aperture and ISO 800. This was the setting for the sky. And next, when I was done with the sky, I've waited for the twilight, so in the down. Before the sunrise, the cliffs starts to make a little bit brighter, but not that much, because there is also there is the lighthouse here, and so it was a little bit complicated to have the reflection of the lighthouse, but with shapes and everything readable in the foreground. But the settings of the foreground were around f8 of the aperture, f8, and like 15 or 13 or 30 seconds, I don't remember, but something like this. More easy than the sky, of course. And just 6 photos for the foreground, and then everything was stitched with Photoshop and PTGui. It was one of my first night panoramas, so the shooting party was a little bit confused, But anyways, I love the result because as you can see, it's balanced, because there is a lighthouse here, and there is a city here that is called Kia, and the Milky Way stars in the center and go hiding itself in the light pollution. Exactly. And this line still go here. There is a an invite to look at the foreground. That was super one of my favorite foreground ever. This was, and I go to Sardinia in the next week.
Awesome.
I can't wait to be there to take some some different shots. I will go again here. The name of this place specifically is Cala Cipolla. That means onion cave, onion place. And was super funny to shoot here. And we was 3 or 4 guys. I was with my friends that were lost in the cliff. But it's giant. You can walk for kilometers like this, and that was amazing.
It's beautiful. It's a real good example of a really well thought and designed in your mind, and then perfectly planned to get the Milky Way where you want, and falling into the light pollution and everything. It's pretty cool.
And sometimes you have to be lucky. Of course. So sometimes you have to be super lucky with the composition. I was here late. I was here during the night. During the day, I didn't find nothing. Like this, like super powerful like this. But actually the light of the
lighthouse.
Yeah, exactly. Helped a lot because I can see, I can arrange a panorama, and then I say, okay, this can work.
Awesome. I have a few questions. if you don't mind.
Of
From
course.
Frankie, for example, you did exposure bracketing with the brightest parts of the scene. Do you do bracketing with each rotation of the panorama? If so,
Yeah.
how do you manage select images for stitching?
Yeah, that's correct. I think we can discuss this with the this image that is a daylight. Um, of course, you're right. I started from here, so against the sun, read the exposure in matrix mode, and then 0 plus 2 minus 2. Then I rotate the camera, for example, looking at here, exactly the same settings and exactly the same 3 shots, like 0 plus 2 minus 2, exactly the same. And this for the whole rotation. Every single shot is a bracketed shot. So every single shot is 0 plus 2 minus 2. Then when I go to computer, I bring a series that I separate with the hands, like I told you before. And when I bring the series, I stitch before everything, I stitch the HDR. So I bring, for example, 18 shots. If you should, for example, 6 shots in bracketing, so 18 shots. I bring all the 18 shots. I put them in Lightroom or Camera Raw. I use personally Camera Raw, and I stitch before the HDR without touching nothing. Every settings is default, so I don't touch nothing. I bring just the photos and I stitch them in HDR. When I stitch it in HDR, I have the DNG files, and I close everything, every software, and I open just the 6 DNG files in Camera Raw. When I have these 6 DNG files in Camera Raw, I synchronize them. So I select all of them, and I start to edit from the brightest part. So I select the brightest image. So I select, for example, this one, and I start to, go a little bit down with the highlights, raise a little bit the shadows, or raise the blacks, raise a little bit the whites, decrease or increase the exposure. But sometimes the exposure, every time the exposure is good, I don't touch it anymore, and just the highlights and the shadows. And then, of course, I bring a lot of correction in terms of color, like the blues, like which HSL panel, or tint, or for example, white balance. But every time that I move a slider, I have the images selected. This is the most important part when you edit, when you want to stitch a panorama. Select all the images, and then apply some, for example, some settings, but with all images selected. If you don't mind, for example, if you for example select just one image and then apply some settings, right? Then reselect every file, and then resynchronize them with this reference, right? This is the most important part. Every single image has to be synchronized with the other. When you have all images synchronized and with the same editing, you can export the images in TIFF mode. I save in TIFF format because the stitching software that I use is PT GUI. You can use also Color Auto Pano Giga or Microsoft Eyes, or there are some softwares that are free because PT GUI costs a little bit. 350 euros, not a little bit, but anyways. And you can stitch the images wherever you want, but the important thing that is you can save your TIFF in RGB mode, in 16 bits, etc., and then stitch together. When you stitch together the TIFFs, you can export the PSB file, straight the PSB, and then you open it to Photoshop, and let's go. Right? This is all my process.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Of course. Why not? Is a It's just a little bit complicated. In the first times, you will have a lot of problems. The guys will have a lot of problems because every time you have to remember the settings, remember exporting in TIFF, etc. But when you go, for the 40 or 50th time, you will you will understand easily. Yeah, if you have another question.
Awesome. Yeah, yes. Before we go into the Star Trails image that I want you to
Mhm.
explain us, and that might be the last one because we are
Mhm.
over 1 hour, almost 1 hour and a half,
Yeah.
and 183 people still live
Oh,
here
nice.
with us. So it's awesome. So, a question from Christine Witten: if you were using 5 minutes exposure for the sky, this Milky Way shot at ISO 800, were you using a tracker to get sharp stars?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah. This panorama is astro tracked panorama, and so I've tracked it for 5 minutes, and this is the hardest part when you have when you have a Milky Way panorama with the astro tracker is to have every time when you move the camera, every time you will have a rotation of the tracker, and so you will have an unbalanced the camera was not anymore balanced with the horizon.
Okay.
So you have rebalanced the camera. So you have to move the camera, rotate, looking at the stars, find the overlap, and then rebalance again the camera with the horizon. Is a little bit complicated. Is a little bit challenging. This is one reason for I have stopped to do Milky Way astro tracked panoramas because it's full of great photographers. It's full of really, really powerful photographers that do something like this much better than me. Lorenzo is one of them, and so there is no reason anymore to focus on Milky Ways. I'm done with them. I've gone a couple of times in Atacama Desert, so I realized my dream, and so I'm okay with them. I'm just focused on moonlight panoramas because I think that that moonlight and sunlight helps a lot to have a really move. I don't know how to say dynamic panorama. That's the meaning. All right.
Awesome. Star Trails.
This is maybe the same thing, but it's during the winter. Same thing, exactly the same thing. Astro tracked. The camera was modified for the reds. Exactly the same thing. The foreground was shooted around sunset in this time, maybe. Yes, and that's
the proof that, guys, you can shoot the Milky Way in wintertime. So
yeah, of course, absolutely, yes. And also you can shoot the Milky Way with the moonlight. It's just a little bit complicated because you have a lot of difference in terms of dynamic range. But here, trust me, there are just two things that helps you a lot: the sky. So you have to travel, and you have to go in the right place in the right moment. So Atacama Desert is perfect for images like this because the sky is almost absolutely clear and without any sort of diffraction of the light. If you have, for example, humidity that diffracted your light, the moonlight, you can have a lot of noise, a lot of light on the stars, and you can't have an image like this. There is clean, is super dry, so there is not humidity that diffracts the light, so it's perfect. So one is the sky, and the second is the setup. If you have a camera that has a lot of dynamic range, I can say you that the A7S III is one of the most dynamic ranges I have tried so far. So I was super helped by the camera, and the moonlight here, the moon phase was around 30%, 30% around. I planned this. I have the records of this image. I will send you. You can have you can do a stories if you want on Instagram. I have the records of the PhotoPills during pointing at the sky. Yeah. The augmented reality, and was super funny. It was super funny, and it was crazy. And I have recorded everything to remember when I was shooting during the night, and that's it. Same thing when you are in front of the moon or of the tent, when you are in front of some light source that are super powerful. Just go a little bit down with the exposure, just go around -2 or -3 stops in terms of exposure, and then let's do the panorama without multi-exposure, just with one exposure, 30 seconds. And 12 megapixel cameras helps you to go around 30 seconds. This image is mainly 30 seconds, and with 30 seconds I have the stars like point, like shape, not star trades. Yeah, exactly. And also my figure was not moving in 30 seconds, just because when you have 12 megapixel, you have no problem with the little movement. If you move a little bit, there is no problem, because 12 megapixel cannot capture your movement, also with the stars. Right. And so let's talk about one of the most complicated panoramas ever. All right. So star trades are so fascinating, and this is one of the genre that I focused too much in the last year. And I was challenging with the 360 degrees star trades. I was wondering to do 360 degrees star trail. I remember 5 years ago I started to think about this, and I said, how is possible? I have to reason about this, and it was a challenge. And then I started to try everything to do them. I saw them from Elements Imaging, Troy Caswell, that is a really good artist, and on Facebook, really old images like 12 years ago. And I've started to be crazy with star trades. When I've tried with a lot of different setups. For first, I've tried in the Sahara Desert, in Tunisian desert, rotating the one camera during 6 times during the night. So 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours, 2 hours. It was crazy. I was, like sleeping 1 hour and a half, and then going, I have to go to rotate the camera, and then sleeping, and then again, sleeping, and then again. Stressful. And during the morning, I've tried to stitch the panorama, but nothing to do. Because I don't know, because the sky, the polar was super complicated. I really didn't know how to do them. And so, I've tried with 2 cameras, and then I read from a post from Troy Caswell that he do this kind of pictures with 4 cameras. And but I was super poor, and 4 cameras cost a lot. And so I tried with 2 cameras, rotating the cameras during the night, dividing the night in 3, and nothing to do. Then I don't know why I just give my last chance maybe to 360 degrees cameras like GoPros or Insta360. I don't know if you know them. They are super powerful during the day, but during the night they are so and so, because they are full of noise. They are not super powerful, because just the sensor is really, really tiny. And so I just give them a try, and I've tried to manage it around here in Italy, around my home. Every single new moon, I was in location just to try, just to understand if it's possible. And I've tried many settings, but sometimes something was wrong. But finally, I've tried something that works with an Insta360 degrees camera, and the settings were really, really weird, because I was shooting for 120 seconds because of the the field of view is giant, so you can push it 120 seconds, and you can have the stars without trails, and ISO around 400, just to maintain the colors of the stars, because if you push the ISO, you can go wrong with the settings, and you can burn the stars, and so you can have mainly a star trace that is full white.
Yeah.
So this is the trick that you can use to manage the stars. Go with less ISO, 400 in my settings, and then go straight during all night long. Of course, this image is around maybe I don't remember, but it's a lot of shots. Maybe is 800 shots in 30 seconds each, something like this. Yes, because 30 seconds you can have also less noise, thermal noise, right? Because 120 can be a little bit noisy, and that's the way. 30 seconds, around 800 shots or something like this, 766 or something like this, but all night long. If you have
it's like 6 hours and a half shooting. 6 hours. I was doing the math here.
Of course, if you have a night with the moon, is a problem, because you have to plan. You have to plan perfectly your shots. Of course, there is the perfect period to do something like this is the winter, because during the winter you don't have the Milky Way, and you don't have the core of the Milky Way that can be super bright during the the shot. And if you want to have a flat star trails, it's better to have a night without the summer Milky Way, the core. So you can go in during the winter without the moon, and then you can just take some photos for the foreground with the sun, rising or after the setting. In this case, the moon arrives around 4 o'clock. I don't remember, or 3 o'clock, something like this. So I was outside of the tent and go bring the camera, shoot off the camera for the star trails, and then starting to have foreground with the moonlight. As you can see, there are a lot of shades here, and here, and some shades some shadows are complicated to understand, because, for example, here my shadow is from the moon, but here is from the light, and so this is from the moon. Here also is from the moon. The light that is here, for example, is from the moon, and so it's a little bit weird also to interpret also this image, but this is the final result. I suggest to do something like this. Yes or no? No, because it's super complicated. But if you want to challenge yourself, yes, do it. And
it's beautiful.
Yes, and see you on Instagram messages like how to do it, please. No problem at all. I'm able to help you guys. Absolutely.
It's amazing. It's amazing, the colors and the trick. The aperture. Did you mention?
The aperture of the camera is automatic, so I cannot move the aperture, but it's around maybe 2.2, maybe something like this. It's not a problem. It's just a problem of the ISO. You have to keep the ISO really low, like for 400 or maximum 800 if you want to do a star trades. And less you go, you can go straight with colors. And then with Photoshop, you can mix the colors and have good results, pumping a lot of vibrance and saturation. And you can have an image like this. You can image my reaction when I was in front of this, and I said, okay, I'm near to mastering it. Right, here we are.
Beautiful. Good job, man. Good job.
I have a lot of street to do, but a road to do. But anyways, it works. It works.
Awesome. Alex, I think do you have a few minutes for answering a few questions?
Of course.
And you had also an Aurora shot and your details, right?
Yeah, I can talk super fast about this. Aurora are super complicated to shoot in panoramas because the aurora is moving. So every subject that moving is complicated to merge, to stitch it with from an image to each other. So it's a little bit challenging. And I suggest to you, for example, to don't do panoramas with long exposures because you will have a lot of, clouds that merging, that, a lot of chaos in the sky. And also to the auroras, you have to be super quick, super fast. So my suggestion is to have less seconds of exposure, like 3 seconds, no more, 5, and go straight with the high ISO, like 4,000 or 6,400. This was 6,400 maybe. And also 10,000 if your camera can manage this kind of ISO. And maximum aperture, of course. So if you are with fisheyes, maximum aperture is f2.8, but if you are with 14 millimeters Sony, for example, you can have 1.4 maybe, or 1.8. And be fast and look for shapes that helps you in the foreground. Leave the exits, leave the sides clean as much as possible. And if you have also the sunset, is better.
Amazing, man. It's
Thanks,
like
man.
The reflections are stunning, and the colors.
Yeah.
in the
This
sky,
is.
wow.
I was, of course, super lucky, but when I was there with, it was in September actually, so it was not cold at
Nice.
all. The temperature was super good, and we stayed there all long and enjoyed the northern lights. And we was lucky. And the spot is amazing. Of course, Senya is amazing everywhere.
Yeah, fantastic.
All right, so we have time for if you want to share our faces, because I don't have nothing more to show you. Okay, my conclusion.
Conclusions.
So it's easy. Nothing. I'm not the professor of anything, but I think that if you watch the big artists, study their history, look for a genre that you really love, you are going crazy for, and repeat it, and don't stop falling in love with it every single day. That's it. Nothing more. That's all I do. Nothing more. And that's it.
Awesome. And where people can find you?
You can find me, of course, on Instagram or on Facebook. And if you want to email me for everything, Alex Wides is my website. And Wides like wide angles, of course. And I'm working on some tutorials. It's a little bit complicated because I have to manage some photo tours, but and also I won't be I won't be able if you need something, if you need some explanation, etc. I'm available, of course.
Awesome. Okay, a few minutes, 5 minutes for questions.
Yep.
1 hour and 42. I'm
sorry.
No, it's me. It's pushing you. Okay. Questions. Easy questions. I promise. Let's see. Jeff Starley. So you are not shooting full spherical panoramas, only 360 horizontal, right?
Yeah. You can go in full spherical just with one shot more pointing on top and one shot more pointing on the bottom, and you will have a full spherical. Sometimes it helps because you can have a tiny planet or something like this, but I'm focused on 360 and it's my drag.
Good. Another question from Diana von Horn. I understand using the remote to take the photos and include yourself, but how do you rotate the camera to capture the panorama if you're at that distance? I suppose that you run a lot, right?
That's a good question. Mainly, I usually do for first the entire panorama, and then I take one shot more or one frame more or one shot more for my figure. Every time I remind you guys, every time with the same settings and with the same exposure. So 0 + 2 - 2 also for my figure. So
Okay.
I do the whole panorama and then I run and then click, click, click and come back.
Awesome. Thank you. Another question from Cosmova. Does the photo stitching software handle the super wide lens distortion well?
I don't suggest to use lenses like fisheyes or ultra wide angles to shoot a single shot, because when you shoot the single shot, you can go. You have to go. You have to go on top of the foreground and bring some flowers, something, and you will have the horizon like banana. So I will suggest to use this kind of lenses just for this kind of panoramas, because you every time point the horizon with a super wide angle, like 180 degrees field of view. You always shoot in balance with your horizon, and when you shoot in balance with your horizon, you don't have any kind of distortion. Nothing like this and nothing like this. The horizon will be perfect straight. You will have a little bit of distortion, like, I don't know the name in English. In Italian is funny, it's barilotto. The distortion, like the image like pumping like this. It's distorted like this. But I every time I don't correct my lens in camera raw. I don't correct any kind of distortion or vignetting. Never.
Okay. Awesome. Question from Himanshu Salawadia.
Yeah.
Which direction do you go for Milky Way panorama? East to west or west to east?
This is a good question also. Usually when I take images like this panorama, I start to shoot from here. So 1 or 2 frames on the right of the core. And the answer is easy. You start from here and you go in this direction. So from the right to the left, for example, because the Milky Way goes in this direction, in the opposite direction. So if you take the advantage with the rotation, you have less problems than following it. Right. So if you follow it every time, you have the Milky Way that go every time far, further, and it's a little bit complicated. It's a catching, it's a hunting. Right.
Awesome. Sandra Vallador is telling me that the distortion effect is called barrel effect.
Yeah.
In English.
Exactly.
All right.
Awesome,
Alex. I think we're done. You're done. I mean, you did it. We aim for 1 hour and we almost 2 hours.
Yeah. I was super scared about arguments or my English. Guys, sorry for my English, but anyways, I'm so super happy to be here. It was a super pleasure. I saw you super challenged with this genre of photography, and what's better than this?
Yeah, amazing. Still almost 146 people here live with us. Thank you so much. Any last words you want to say before we say goodbye?
You need. Sorry,
do you want to say anything before we say goodbye? And we I mean, not to die, but
just keep doing it, guys. Just keep doing it. You will fail a lot. I will fail a lot, and I will keep doing it. That's it.
Awesome, man. I mean, it's been amazing to meet you, because the first time I'm really meeting you face to face virtually. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
And it's been a pleasure to listen to your story and see all your images. Keep up your great work, because you're an amazing storyteller. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your secrets.
Thanks to you and the guys. Thanks all.
And for you all still here with us, thank you so much for watching this video. And as always, if you like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and I'll see you next Wednesday in another video. And remember that I have the power to imagine, plan, and shoot legendary photos. Bye-bye. Thank you. Thank you, Alex.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you too.